This spilled Ukrainian grain in Poland is the latest sign of escalating tensions between the two nations. Polish farmers say cheap imports from Ukraine are threatening their livelihoods, something Kyiv has denied. It's the latest protest in a long-running fight over Ukrainian agricultural goods coming into Poland and the rest of the European Union. Here's what's behind the dispute and why it has driven a wedge between Ukraine and Poland, one of Kyiv's closest supporters in the war with Russia. The EU scrapped duties and quotas on Ukrainian grain imports after Russia launched its full-scale invasion. The bloc also set up ways to move Ukrainian grain through its western neighbours, including Poland. But Polish farmers say this caused their prices to drop, leading to protests in recent months.
Polish farmers say that Ukrainian grain has flooded their market, suppressed prices, and compromised quality.
The protests escalated at the end of February after Polish farmers blockaded border crossings to Ukraine. This caused long queues of trucks at checkpoints. Ukraine believes this could hold up Western military aid crossing the border as the country grapples with critical shortages. Ukraine denied its agricultural exports have damaged EU markets, especially Poland's. The country says Ukrainian grain only transits through its western neighbour. President Volodymyr Zelensky said the blockade is more about politics than grain.
Новини з кордону з Польщею виглядають просто знущально. Потрібні спільні рішення, раціональні рішення, щоб вийти з цієї ситуації.
Zelensky invited Poland's government to meet Ukrainian officials along their shared border last week to defuse the situation. But Polish officials did not turn up. Poland's Prime Minister Donald Tusk agreed to hold talks between the two countries, but not until the end of March. His new government is trying to balance the farmers' concerns with Warsaw's ongoing strong support for Kyiv.
Poland's relationship with Ukraine was a really important part of last year's election, and as such it became quite a big issue, and in some cases perhaps overblown, because it was being used by the ruling party as a way of gaining traction with people who had felt like Warsaw had given enough aid to Ukraine. Donald Tusk did a very good job of showing how important the relationship is to Poland by making his first foreign trip to Kyiv. Obviously they still have more problems to iron out, and this will certainly be one of them.
Since farmers began their blockades in February, Tusk declared border crossings as critical infrastructure. He said this means military and humanitarian aid for Ukraine will be able to pass through. But Ukraine says more needs to be done.
В іншому випадку Україна залишає за собою право застосовувати дзеркальні заходи на пунктах пропуску.
Given the problems that started to arise between the former government and Ukraine at the end of last year, the fact that there's a new prime minister and Donald Tusk is taking control of policy in regards to Ukraine, I think people saw at the time a chance for a clean slate and to be able to start relations anew between Warsaw and Kyiv.
The Polish protests come as farmers across Europe have taken to the streets against EU agricultural and climate policies. Farmers say an influx of Ukrainian grain has pulled down prices while their production costs are rising. Lawmakers across the bloc are concerned about the farmers' growing support for far-right parties ahead of June's European Parliament elections. This banner calling on Russian President Vladimir Putin to sort out Ukraine and Brussels was spotted at a farmers' protest in Poland. A change in the EU's political landscape could impact the bloc's support for Ukraine as the war rolls into its third year.